sometimes in our need time, it gives us an opportunity to actually clarify issues and have a chance to resolve concerns. We call this an exploring dialogue. It gives us a chance to travel and understand deeply where our partner's at, and a chance to understand and respond to the concerns that they have. It gives us a chance to feel valued and heard, and it's a pathway to marriage growth. We have a chance to develop new creative paths, and also it is an opportunity for forgiveness.
So it's an opportunity for so much. And remember those two essential ingredients that are so powerful for good communication. They're actually essential in this exploring dialogue. Those two skills of active or reflective listening and I statements. So they're key to the exploring dialogue because they help resolve issues that you're raising. They bring you to that resolution so much more quickly. Remember that active or reflective listening is tuning in to your partner's emotions as they express what they're feeling, and then you reflect it back as if there's a mirror in between the two of you. You reflect what you've heard back to them so they can actually say, yeah, that's exactly what I mean, or no, that's not quite right, and then they can correct it for you. So they feel heard and understood. A key tip to remember when we are reflectively listening is to paraphrase those words in our own words. So when we hear our partner speak, to just be able to reflect it back in paraphrased form rather than parrot form. And the other key point is to say it in a tentative way, because we may not be correct with what we've heard exactly. So an example would be something like this. It sounds like you're feeling really frustrated with me and disappointed in me. Is that right?
Not quite.
Okay, so then I'm able to actually try again, yeah? Or you can help me with that if it's not quite right. Yeah. So that's why it's so important to be tentative, because we can get it wrong, and being wrong's okay. It's just trying to understand each other in a more effective way by paraphrasing and being attentive. Then the other key point to remember when we're exploring with each other in this type of dialogue is using I statements. Now remember that I statements state clearly and cleanly how you feel about the problem without attacking or blaming the person. So we don't want to make our partner feel defensive. So it's important that we own our emotion and take responsibility for it. So an example of this might be, I feel upset when you don't ring me when you're going to be late home from work. I start to worry. What I'd really like is if you could just make that call so that I know. So see how I've just done that clearly? I've told John what I would prefer to happen after I've expressed the feeling that I've actually had in the beginning.
When Sam and I have a conflict, we usually like to process it later. I like to think about it that after the time has passed and we've both cooled down, I like to think of it like we are both sitting in a theatre and watching a show being performed. Sam likes to think about it as a post-mortem. So this was actually a conflict that happened to us. And in marriage, there is no absolute reality. There is two subjective realities. And what we've learned with time, it's much better to find out your spouse's subjective reality rather than to keep repeating your own. So this actually happened in our life, and this is the way we go about it.
Sanaa, Is it a good time to talk?
Yes, it's good.
Do you remember a few weeks ago, that Saturday morning, I woke up early in the morning. I couldn't sleep. So I got dressed quietly so I don't wake you up. Took the car to the car wash.
Yes.
And while I was waiting, I had a coffee, read the paper, and came home. And I thought I'll come home for a kiss and good start for the weekend.
I remember.
Apparently, you rang me a few times while I was there, and my telephone was on silent.
I remember.
And you met me with so much anger and hurt. And it was quite overwhelming, I must say.
I do remember that day, yes.
I felt so hurt. The fact that just after a long week at work, I can't have 5 minutes or 10 minutes of peace where I can be sitting down, having a cup of coffee, or reading the paper, and not being on tap. I work very long hours. I don't need prompting. I work at home very well. I'm very conscious of what needs to be done. I'm very receptive. And I felt somehow undervalued. I felt really that somehow whatever I've done wasn't good enough. And I had to do more.
I remember that day, Sam. I remember you woke up early and left quietly so not to wake me up. And while you were there at the car wash, I rang you a few times and your phone was on silent. And when you came home, I was very angry that I couldn't reach you. And you expected to be met with a hug, but you were met with a very angry wife.
Can I tell you something else?
Yes.
You are the one who promotes always soft starts. And I must tell you, start wasn't soft at all.
I think I know where you're coming from. I met you with a very harsh start and I was angry. And I really feel for you, like you worked very hard and you felt like you were not even given the right to have half an hour to rest. You felt like you have to be like a robot, always on call. And somehow that made you feel unappreciated and not valued.
Yeah.
Is that how you felt?
Very much so. Yeah, very much
Is there
so.
anything else you want to add?
Not really. That's exactly how I felt at the time.
I really feel your pain there. It must be so painful with all you do to feel not valued and not appreciated. And you know how much I love and value you. And I really feel sorry that day you felt unvalued and you felt like you have no right for half an hour to rest. I think I feel your pain there. And I'm sorry to have caused you some of that pain. And I really need to be aware of that. Because you never need to be prompted. You give always more. At work and at home, you are a much better housewife than me. And I really do value what you do. And I'm sorry you felt that way. And I'll do my best to really make you feel as loved and as valued as I feel about you inside.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you for sharing. I would like, if that's a good time for you, to share with you how I felt about that day. Is that a good time for you?
Very much so. Yeah.
Okay. So you remembered that day when you woke up early and you didn't make any noise and you left me asleep and you went to have your car washed.
Yeah.
That day we were having people for lunch, and right across the road from car wash was Harris Farm. And I needed just a couple of items from Harris Farm because we don't have Harris Farm where we live. So I tried to ring you about 30 times and your phone was on silent.
It's true.
Do you remember how many times in our years of marriage did I ask you, please, Sam, when you take your phone off the charger in the morning, please put it on loud?
Lots of times.
I really felt unheard and ignored then. You know, I would have been very happy if you would have just picked the phone and say, I really need my half an hour of rest. You just have to do with what you've got there at calls or whatever. but I can't help you. But I just needed you to be available to me to tell me that. And I was really hurt that I was ignored time after time. And I think that day what sort of brought it all up to me, all of our lives, we've multitasked. We've done things while we're doing other things. I didn't know what was so different about that day. So I felt I was just behaving in the normal way we worked out things in 37 years. So I didn't know what was different about that day. You know, I grew up as the youngest of 5 children. And in the culture where I grew up, there was always that importance given to the eldest child. And being the 5th and youngest child, I never felt heard in my family of origin. And I definitely did not want that to be repeated in my marriage. You know how it's such a trigger for me, not feeling heard, not feeling ignored. And that day, I really felt ignored by you. And that was really painful for me, Sam.
I must tell you, it's a problem that kept repeating itself over many years. I had to turn my phone off silent and be ready for you. So I'm sorry. I heard you lots of time, but I was slow on acting. Second point is I value everything you say. And the fact maybe I triggered all the issues relating to family of origin. It brought up all that anger that morning, which came from hurt, which I can see that now. And I'm sorry about that. You were under pressure. We had people coming for lunch. You wanted specific items, and I could have got them when I was there waiting for the car. All of that wasn't obvious for me at the time. And I can understand your anger. Maybe I don't accept it all, but I do understand that. And I promise you, I'll work harder on turning my phone on.
And listening to me.
My word, I will.
Thank you, darling. So we can see there, really behind every negative feeling, there is a longing. And Sam's longing was to feel valued, to feel appreciated. And my longing was to feel heard. And we would have never arrived at this point without really listening, going behind the negative feeling, an angry wife and an upset husband. We had to go beyond that to what was really going on for him. He just wanted to feel valued and appreciated. And what was going on for me? I wanted to be heard. And having listened to each other with a lot of empathy and really connecting with that feeling, we managed to get to what was behind the anger, to what we both really needed, to be valued and appreciated and to be heard.
Also, somehow it gave me an opportunity to know more about you. Like I wasn't aware of the issue relating to your family of origin. So more I know about you, your vulnerabilities, your areas of hurt. It made me understand you better and connect with you better. Okay. So that was very helpful.
And there is no better spouse to do it with than you, darling. Thank you.
Sweetheart, one of the things that's been concerning me lately is that I'm experiencing a loss of trust in knowing that what you say you will actually do, and that's been disheartening for me. What I experienced, it's the main issue at the moment has been the garage and all your stuff that's there. I tripped over it 2 weeks ago and you said you'd do it, fix it up, and I've had to remind you in the last couple of weeks 3 times, 3 or 4 times, and it's still not been done, and I just feel really discouraged that when you say you'll do something, I want to know that you're going to do it.
So you're feeling pretty sad, really, that I'm not following through with what I say.
Yeah. I'm just feeling very frustrated. I was very frustrated. I was angry when I tripped over because, you know, we don't fall as easily as we used to. You've got to admit we're getting older.
We don't bounce.
We don't bounce the same way. And it just really bothers me. So that's just a small thing, the safety. But what really bothers me is that, you know, you say with conviction that you're going to do something, but other things just get in the way. And I appreciate so much all the things you do. Like, you know, I don't take it for granted one bit, the bills and all the financials that I'm so hopeless at. You just take care of that department. I really appreciate all that you do. But it's just these things that kind of get put back on the lowest part of the priority list, it seems, when you have agreed to do them.
Yeah, it's almost as if you've got the organisational brain and you've got a good grasp of what needs to be done, and I say, yes, I'll do it, but it doesn't get done.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I know I see things more, you know, I'm a visual person and and I'm an organisational person, and so I do see how life can be automated more to make us more efficient. And you know, we both lead really busy lives, and I just, you know, so I do have that aspect of me, I know, and that might be frustrating at times for you, but that's, you know, regarding this, it was the safety issue.
Certainly.
But more important, it's not being heard, it's not feeling important to you, my husband, when you know I would like those things done. I mean, it's your stuff. If it's my stuff, I'd shift it, but you know where you want that stuff.
Sure. Yeah, so it's more than just, it's just a mark of the fact that I'm not doing things. It's the underlying thing, I'm not showing you respect and honouring you through my inaction.
That's exactly it, sweetheart. And, you know, I know that there's, you know, I've healed from a lot of things in my past with my family of origin, with not feeling listened to, not feeling important. I know I was important to mum and dad, but it just, because, you know, they did the best they could with what they had at the time, with the resources that they had. But, you know, I kind of came away from my childhood and looked at the fact that I only was treated as important if, you know, I came dux of the school, or if I did, you know, if I performed well, you know, in getting into state sports stuff. And that was because we all went out to dinner, celebrated, but of course they couldn't afford to go out to dinner just because they loved us. It was always around something that we did well. So I had to deal with that, like, you know, we don't have to achieve.
So basically what you're saying is that when I don't respond to what we've discussed, it reminds you the fact that you're not feeling important. And
You.
Yes, to me. And I feel really sad about that because, you know, I want you to be a high priority in my life, the highest priority. And I want you to know that if I'm going to do something, that I'm going to do it. And I don't want you to feel that way. So I want things to be different because it can't keep going on like this. It doesn't help either of us
No.
for this situation.
Yeah. I hear you saying that I am your top priority, and I know that in my head, and I know it in my heart too, but it's these actions or lack of sometimes that makes me feel that I'm actually not that way.
Yes, and sadly I've got a unreal false expectation of my memory. I'm overconfident in my memory. I think I don't need to write that down, I'll remember that. But in practical terms it doesn't happen. You know, a certain number of things just go straight through and I don't ever think of them again. And I've tried ways of overcoming that. As you know, I've written a to-do list on scraps of paper.
Yes.
Then they end up going in my pants pocket through the wash, and as the paper dissolves, so does my to-do list and any memory of it.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to come up with other strategies of trying to put that in place so it doesn't keep happening.
Yes, yeah, and I guess you could depend on your memory for those incidental things in the past, but maybe, you know, we need to adjust. Like, I've always written notes of what I need to do.
Yes.
It's just the way I work, and it works for me. But I think it's time that you experimented with that in a really serious way of writing down.
Yes.
And then being able to tick it off.
Well, that's something I'd like to do, to show respect for you and to show you're so important to me. So I'm going to have a diary, and I'll write down things and check them every morning after breakfast. I'll check my day's to-do list.
Yeah, this is your new diary
This is my
that
new
you
diary,
actually
which
bought.
I'll buy, that's right.
Yeah,
And check it out and write it down.
Right, because the thing is, I feel encouraged when you write things down. But the next step is, like, I just feel so encouraged hearing you saying now, I will look at it each morning.
Yes.
That makes the
right.
difference for me.
There's two parts. There's writing it down and there's the actual looking at it. That's the next project.
Yes, because if you write it down, it gets shoved in the cupboard, which is what it has.
Yes,
What's the point?
precisely.
Yeah.
Work in progress, but I'm really sorry that I caused hurt by you falling over my stuff and not moving it. And really sorry that I've caused hurt by making you feel like you're not important when you really are most important.
Thank you, sweetheart. Appreciate knowing that. Well, what have you found really valuable about doing this type of exploring dialogue? I mean, it can be a bit like I'm just feeling a bit. I guess I'm feeling a mixture of things. You know, a bit drained, but also a bit energised and relieved that there's an outcome.
Yes.
How do you feel about doing that?
I think the good thing about it is that we can nip things in the bud. I mean, things are sort of bubbling the whole time internally, and if we can actually express them before they reach like a crunch sort of, well, there's still a bit of a pinch where they're a bit sort of annoying and need to be fixed up.
Yeah.
And try and sort things out before they become a crunch where they're actually really going to damage our relationship.
Yes. Yeah. So it's being proactive.
Proactive.
Yeah. Before it becomes a mountain.
Exactly.
Yeah. Another thing I've found really helpful when we do sit down and work through issues like this on the couch, we've chosen a time to do it. We're not doing it in the heat of the moment, like when I've tripped over in the garage.
Exactly.
You know, that would be disastrous because I was so angry. I was frustrated, and I don't want to speak to you. You know, I love you to bits. I don't want to speak to you in a way that I regret later. So, what I really value about these exploring dialogues is that we can agree upon a time. We can sit on the couch. We can put a candle there. We can have a glass of wine. We can do whatever we like to do to relax, but to actually see an outcome that really strengthens our relationship, and it's with constructive conversation.
Yes.
I'm feeling heard by you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Do you feel heard by me?
I feel heard.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So when we were canoeing recently with some friends, and we went down the right rapid rather than the left rapid, which is not what I was expecting, I felt embarrassed and I felt disappointed because we'd missed out the extra experience we would have had on the left rabbit. And I felt dismissed because you checked in with me, which way are we going? And I said, I think we decided left, and you went right. So I'd like to explore a little bit more what happened with you.
So you're saying that in that experience, and it was a bit of a confused experience, but it ended up feeling embarrassing, and you felt disappointed by it. And also, not listened to, I think I would understand. Yeah, and when I think about it, I also feel really quite embarrassed about it. I felt like it took the shine off what was been quite an enjoyable day, because there was this confusion, and we felt like we missed out on doing the slightly more challenging part of the exercise. I felt somewhat. I felt a degree of shame about it, because I felt like it manifested a lack of competence on my part. Yeah, and what I'd like is to perhaps rewrite the history, but that would be quite challenging, so I guess it'd be good to just talk about it a bit more and explore what was happening.
So I suppose I just want to kind of unpack my feelings and understand a little bit more of your feelings. So I think I felt a little... I did feel like there was something about what happened in that interaction between us that was almost more significant than what happened with where we chose to go.
Yeah.
So I know, so when I say that I felt dismissed, we'd had that interaction when you'd said to me as we were coming up towards the choice point, I'm confused, I don't know what you'd said, I'm confused, I don't know what to do, should I be going left, should I be going right? And I said, I know we're going left. We were told to go left. And you said, no, I'm going right because that feels safer. And then we got down to the bottom of the rapid, and I'm thinking, if I say anything, he's going to feel like I'm criticising him. He's done the best he could. This is my internal dialogue, but I'm turning up inside. He asked for my opinion, and I didn't feel listened to.
Yeah, and playing it back, it felt very confused, the situation. I'd heard something very different from the guide, and what actually unfolded in front of me as we got there felt like, hang on, that's not what I thought he was saying. And I guess I took the path that I felt I had the best control of in the boat, and then realised that, I'd stuffed it up. So I was feeling pretty bad already about doing that and missing out on perhaps the slightly more, wild experience. Not that it was that wild, but yeah, and I was very aware then that you were quite upset, and I guess I was stuck a bit in my own feelings at that point. I was stuck in that feeling of, I've mucked this up and I've ruined the experience for us. I mean, that's a bit, that's what was going on in my head space at that point. So I don't know if I was in a very good place to hear what was happening for you. Yeah.
So I can hear at that point you weren't feeling like you were in a good place to hear what was happening for me, and you were churning a bit inside with a whole lot of feelings about having mucked it up. Yeah. And what that might mean, and aware that I wasn't happy, but not in a good place to interact about it. And so I'd like to go back a minute, because when I shared my feelings, then you went straight into sharing what was happening for you, and I felt like I got a bit missed.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
So so I don't know if you remember what I said or about how I was feeling, and I just like a little bit back from you.
Yeah, I heard you saying you actually felt quite intense feelings at that point. You were feeling particularly at, I hadn't really listened to what you were saying. That I'd not actually taken on board what you were saying. Yeah, and I can hear that was really quite difficult.
That's a bit of a trigger point for me, I think. Yeah. That sort of feeling of being dismissed and feeling, as you're saying it now, it's a hurt feeling. It's like my opinion doesn't matter, and I think I did go to a kind of place where myself, where I was in my own hurt, and my head was saying, if I open my mouth, that's maybe not a good idea, but then I'm struggling with my own feelings. Yeah.
So it was creating quite a lot of turmoil for you emotionally at that point. Yeah. I do remember it there being a strong emotional content at the time. Yeah, and I guess I was trying to get a handle on what that was about. And I guess I'm conscious that there were all sorts of layers to what was happening for me at that point in time too. Do you think there are other parts you'd like to just explore about what was happening for you before I say anything about that?
No, I think that's what I mainly wanted to tell you. So we've had. I'm wanting to hear that there's when that happens. I do feel a bit hurt, and it's good to hear that acknowledged.
Is there anything else
it just feels better for me.
Yeah. Is there anything else you need around that? Or?
No, I'm feeling heard. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, and I guess I'm just playing back what was going on for me at the time that kind of shut me down in some ways. Yeah, which I guess looking back, that's what was happening. And I guess I had a lot invested in the day. I wanted it to be a really nice experience for our friends and for Tom, our son, and I guess also it's my thing. I really enjoy canoeing, and I enjoy being able to show that I can do it and I can control a boat well, and just not kind of getting the thing clear and kind of feeling really I don't know what to do here, felt really quite confusing. So when it panned out that I really wasn't what I thought, and I'd gone not the wrong side because it was safe and it was still one way down, but I just had missed some of the element of it. I felt pretty shut down, pretty upset about it, and it felt like it to extent. I felt it almost kind of spoilt the whole event for me, and the intensity of our interaction also sort of felt like it spoiled it for me. So I was in a sort of emotionally not a great spot, and I'm playing back in my head why that triggers for me, what that triggers for me, and it's about that sense of we've talked about this, about feeling competent in that situation. Something I felt like I should have got right, and I didn't get it right. So I was kind of stuck in that space.
You said quite a lot, and I want you to feel heard, so I'm just going to try and feed it back to you. I hear that for you, it does trigger this sense of being competent, and there was a lot of disappointment because this is, in a sense, this is our happy place together on the river, though we were doing something different, canoeing rather than kayaking. So what I hear for you is that there was a whole lot of different things happening, and that sense of having let me down, and also the disappointment of what it meant for our friends, and you'd invested a lot in setting this time up for us, and also this is a place where you normally feel really competent, and you are very competent, and so it kind of
it takes the shine.
You weren't expecting to feel like that. I suppose for me, as we talk about this, I'm already starting to feel a little bit more settled about it. I think the churn for me partly was doing stuff like this for us has been a time when I feel really connected to you, and that interaction, and I was part of it, led to us feeling not connected.
I've always enjoyed when you said going canoeing with me is a happy place for you, and it didn't feel like a happy place right at that point in time.
How are you feeling now as we talk about this?
I guess I'm happy to have actually talked about the emotional impact it had, because it did feel upsetting that it created that, as you unpack, that sort of sense of a distance about it, and maybe that was a big part of it for me, was losing that sense of pleasure in it and feeling like it took the shine off it so much. So yes, I appreciate having had a chance to unpack it. I'm also really conscious that it's something I I want to be able to do better as that is to try and hear you and reflect that I'm hearing your opinion and I'm trying to respond appropriately to that.
Thank you for talking that through with me. Thank you.
Thanks, darling.